You ever wonder if you should be feeding fermented feed to your quail? That's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another slightly rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And today we're going to talk about fermenting feed for your animals, your quail, your rabbits, your chickens, any of that kind of stuff. I get a lot of questions about this recently, or I've gotten a lot of questions about this recently. It's coming up in every live broadcast I do, which, by the way, if you're looking to get your questions answered, I've been a little bit slow to answer comments lately because I've been so busy at work, but I do a live broadcast every Thursday, pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Time. Sometimes life gets in the way, I'm a little bit late or I don't get to do the broadcast, but most of the time I'm there 7 o'clock Thursday evenings, 7 o'clock Central on this channel, and you can come in there and I do my best to answer all your questions. It's just a live Q&A, ask me anything you want to ask me, that kind of thing. So if you're looking to get something answered and I haven't answered it in the comments, go ahead and join that live broadcast if you can, and you'll probably get a better chance of getting it answered there. I'm trying to get back on track with comments, but let's get back to the topic of the video here. Okay, so fermenting quail feed. First of all, what is it? Fermenting feed is very similar. Think of it as, sauerkraut or yogurt or kefir or something like that. That's pretty much what it is. What you're doing is you're taking the feed, the regular grain that you feed your quail, the regular game bird feed that I'm feeding mine, and you cover it with water a little bit above the top of the grain, and you add some kind of starter. So that would either be like apple cider vinegar with the mother in it, just a teaspoon or a tablespoon probably to a quart jar of feed, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of kefir, something like that is already fermented. You're going to add a little bit of a starter to that, set it in a fairly warm place on top of your refrigerator, on your counter, wherever, and let it sit for about 24 hours. It's going to absorb all that moisture and it's going to basically ferment. So it's going to be very similar to sauerkraut or yogurt or something like that. It's going to contain that lactobacillus, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, bacteria that is common in those things. And it is good for your gut, bacteria, or your birds, I should say. You're not going to eat the quail feed. Well, I guess you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, it's good for them. It does have some probiotic bacterias. It's believed that it will help them fight off disease, that it will make them healthier. It can make their eggs, a little bit thicker, their egg shells a little bit thicker. It can make their, feathers a little bit shinier, all those kinds of things. Now, I don't know of any real scientific studies that show exactly how much better it is for them. Oh, one other benefit that it could do is make their dropping smell a little less worse. Help impact that. That's reported from people that use these kinds of things, but again, take that with a grain of salt. That's not hardcore scientific evidence. Now, I know there have been some scientific studies done that it is good for your birds, but it's not magic. It's not something you have to do. And it's not going to cure everything that goes wrong with them. It just gives them a boost, an immunity boost. So again, it is something that's good to do for your birds. If you want to ferment your quail food, go ahead and do it. It's not difficult to do. It's pretty easy. Oh, another thing that's good about fermented feed is because it is damp, it is moist, it's going to be like the consistency of, think cooked oatmeal basically when you're done, is it's not nearly as messy. So when you feed it to your birds, they're not going to fling it all over the place. Now, I use a fairly waste-free feeder, so I don't have a lot of problems with waste, but if you do, fermenting your feed is a great way to save on your feed bill. Though it also tends to fill them up just a little bit faster so they don't eat quite as much. Now, here's the reason I don't personally ferment my feed. One, the first reason is it's work. It's extra work to do. I mean, I work a full-time job. I spend, 15, 20 minutes a day. I mean, I come out and check the birds occasionally, but my care routine, feeding, and all those kinds of things is a 10-minute job in the mornings. I don't have time. I could make time, but it is a little extra work for me to go out and ferment feed, to go out and feed it to the birds. Here's the other concerns about that too, is you're not going to be able to just dump feed in their feeders and keep it in there for days and days and days and days on end. You're going to want to be cleaning that stuff up fairly regularly. It is a little bit messy, and because it's damp, especially in the summertime with the heat, you're going to have to look for mold problems. Make sure they don't mold. Now, you will tell if your fermented feed goes bad, and it's going to smell bad. It's going to smell like, that's the thing with lactobacillus, with fermentation, I should say, in general. If it goes wrong, you're going to know it. What it should smell like when you smell fermented feed is it should smell maybe a little bit like vinegar. have a little bit of that vinegary kind of smell to it. But if it smells sour or foul, or if you see mold on it or any of those kinds of things, you want to throw it out. You don't want to feed that to your birds. And the same problem with if you leave it in there for days on end, especially in the summer when it's getting up to 90, 100 degrees outside, there's a good chance it's going to start to mold. And you really don't want to be feeding moldy food to your birds. Now that brings me to another point. When it comes to your rabbits, it's not recommended to ferment rabbit feed because rabbits are much more sensitive to the mold, and you may not even know the mold's present in the feed, but they're much more sensitive to the mold than your birds are. So if you want to feed fermented feed, feed it to your birds, that's fine. Don't feed it to your rabbits. Don't ferment rabbit feed. Again, I don't do it because it's extra work. I don't really buy into all the, it's one of those things that's kind of gone around the homesteading community, so to speak. Kind of like apple cider vinegar was that way for a while, that it's almost like magical, like it's going to cure all these problems. It's just going to have all these amazing effects on your birds. It's not really that magical. It is good for them. It does have probiotics in it. It is going to boost their gut bacteria, the good bacteria in their gut. But again, it's not going to be something that's just going to make your birds just so much better than if they didn't have fermented feed. So it's not an absolute necessity to do. If you want to do it, by all means, go for it. It's not that difficult to do. It's just a little bit of extra work from the prep, prepping the stuff, letting it sit for 24 hours, and the cleanup. You're going to have to keep the stuff a little bit cleaner, and that means bringing them in and washing them out because that stuff sticks to the containers. You don't want to leave old, wet food in the container for a week and a half on end and add new food on top of it. You're going to end up with mold problems, and mold problems can be very bad for your animals. So anyway, this is a very quick, short video to address that topic, but I got asked so many times recently, I figured I'd go ahead and get it addressed in a video and get it covered for you guys. Hopefully I covered it well enough for you. You got what you needed out of it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, God bless.